Our next idea is the introduction of the prescription drug terminatrix. Let's start by dragging the video file pills1 from our media bin into our project timeline and placing it right after our last clip. What we want is to see the word terminatrix pop up on our screen a few seconds after the pill1 clip starts. Move your scrubber to around 12 seconds on your timeline. Now select the text tool from your toolbar and draw a text box in the middle of your project monitor by dragging your mouse. You will notice that a new object has entered our video track where your scrubber is. If you can't see it, zoom into your project timeline by using the sliders at the bottom. Go back to your project monitor and type the word terminatrix. You will probably want to adjust the size, color, and font of your text object. To do that, make sure that the text object is selected in your project timeline, and in the source monitor area, select the Effects Control tab. You will see there is a drop-down menu for text under the graphics section. Click on the arrow next to the word text, and you will see a variety of options that look similar to using a word processor like Google Docs or Microsoft Word. With the text in your project monitor highlighted, you can change the font size, alignment, kerning, color, and a few other things. Let's change our font. I'm using Oswald Regular, but if you don't have that font, just use Arial. Adjust the size so that the text is prominent and give the text a middle alignment. Next, look at the section titled Appearance. The fill represents the main color of your text, in this case white. Stroke outlines your text in a secondary color, which can help increase contrast and readability. You can change the thickness of the stroke by making the number larger or smaller. Lastly, if you have a busy moving video background, such as these pills falling, adding a background can make your text more legible. This fills the rest of your text box with a color behind your text. In this case, let's pick a dark gray. You can also change the opacity of the background so that you can still see the video behind it. Change its opacity, represented by the checkerboard icon, to 75%. Now, using the selection tool, let's adjust our text box and move it till it looks to be in the center of our shot in the project monitor. If you're having trouble doing this by eye, with the text object selected, you can use the Align tool to perfectly center your text box by going to the menu, then Graphics, then Align, then select Vertical Center. Notice how the text box moves perfectly to the right height. Repeat, but this time select Horizontal Center, and now the text box is perfectly in the center of your shot. Now let's make your text object the correct duration for our video. Going to the object in your video track, hover your mouse over the edge of the text object, just like we would when we trim the beginning or end of a clip. Click and drag the right side to about 14 seconds on your project timeline. You can do this for any graphic, text, or image you import to dynamically change its duration on your timeline. Next, you're going to work on your own, making the next text box that looks like this. If you navigate to our download folder, then text, you will find a text file that you can open to copy and paste the words, but you will have to make the text object and change the font and colors on your own. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but try to get it close. The text object should begin right after our terminatrix text object and end at the same time as our video clip, Pills1. Pause this video now and use this freeze frame for reference. Now that you've made your second text object, we're going to add another layer to our visual composition. First, select your two text objects and your Pills1 video clip by holding down the Shift key and clicking on each one using the selection tool. Now drag everything up one track so that video track 1 is now empty. Next, let's drag the video clip titled Pills2 from our media bin into our sequence onto video track 1, directly below the Pills1 clip. If you move your scrubber back and forth, you may notice that you can't see the new Pills2 video clip. and that's because it's below our Pills 1 video clip. If we were to click the eyeball icon on the video track that our Pills 1 clip is on, it will disappear from view and we can see that our Pills 2 clip is in fact there. Click it again to restore the video track 2. What we will now do is change the opacity of our Pills 1 clip so that we can visually blend the two clips together. Using the selection tool, click on our Pills 1 clip and then navigate to the Effects Control panel. Under Video, you will see a drop-down for opacity and a number box set to 100. If we were to change this number to 50, you would see that our top layer becomes see-through, and you can now see both videos. However, what we want is for our top layer clip, Pills 1, to be solid for some time, and then slowly become see-through. In order to do that, we need to learn about keyframes. Keyframes are a way of programming some instructions to happen at specific times in our timeline. Let's begin by moving our scrubber right to when our Terminatrix text ends in our timeline. Make sure that your Pills 1 clip is selected, and that in the Effects Control panel, your opacity is set back to 100. To activate keyframes for a specific effect control, like scale, position, rotation, or in this case opacity, we have to click on the stopwatch next to the given effect. You will notice that a diamond appears on the right panel in what looks like a zoomed-in timeline. This timeline corresponds with our project timeline. What that diamond, or keyframe, represents is the instruction that at this point in time, I want the opacity of this clip to be set to 100%. Now, if we were to move our timeline forward a few seconds and then change our opacity to 50%, you will see another keyframe has formed, stating that at this point in time, I want the opacity of this clip set to 50. If we play this back, we will see our video go from completely solid or opaque to see-through over time because the software automatically and gradually decreases the opacity between these 2 points. Keyframes can also be moved independently left and right to have the change happen quicker or longer, but be careful as this can get away from you. If you want this transition to happen faster, just move your second keyframe closer to your first one, and conversely, you could make the transition last longer by spacing your second keyframe further away. One important note about activating keyframes: once you click on the stopwatch icon, keyframes will be active for the clip at all times. If you ever want to get rid of keyframes, you can select them and delete them, or you can deactivate keyframes by clicking on the stopwatch again. But note that all your keyframes will then be permanently deleted, so do so cautiously and make sure you are on the correct clip before deleting anything. Now that you've worked with keyframes a bit, try to animate our second text object using keyframes in the Position Effects control so that the text object starts off screen and then comes into frame from the right like this. Here's a hint. Take a look at what is happening in my effects control to get an idea. In the last section, we learned how to use keyframes to change opacity over time. However, there is another way of doing this through an effect called the cross dissolve, which will transition the beginning or end of one clip into another. It can also be used to fade into or out of black if the end of your clip doesn't lead into another clip. To start, we will have to change our workspace from Editing to Effects. Notice that an Effects panel appears in the top right of our screen. Expand the folder called Video Transitions, then Dissolve, and select the Cross Dissolve effect. Now let's find our Terminatrix text object and drag the effect onto the beginning end of that clip. You will see what looks like two triangles forming a larger rectangle appear at the beginning of the clip, representing the cross dissolve. If we play the clip, we will see our text transition smoothly from nothing into the text on our screen. We can change the duration of the cross dissolve by hovering over the end of it with our selection tool, and just like trimming, dragging it to the left or right for a shorter or longer cross dissolve respectively. Add cross dissolves at the end of both your text objects and your video clip Pills 1. Now let's see what happens when we add a cross dissolve in between two clips. Grab the Robot Wakes Up clip from your bin and add it to your timeline where the clip Pills 2 ends. Now when you add a cross dissolve, it sits in between your two clips, and when we play it back, you can see how Pills 2 fades into our new clip. That being said, this is the dramatic turn in our boxing story, and we can pack more of a punch in the reveal of the robot using a different transition. Select the cross dissolve using the selection tool and press delete to delete it. Now go back to your effects panel and choose the transition effect titled Dip to White, and add it to your two clips like before. Now when we play it back, instead of the clips fading into each other, we get an instant of bright white color before transitioning into our robot. Adding cross dissolves and other transitions is a stylistic and artistic choice that makes moving from clip to clip less jarring when necessary. So have fun with your transitions, experiment with them, and do what feels right to you. Add the rest of your project video clips to your timeline so that it looks like this. Then, grab the audio file titled Robot Pew Noises and add it to audio track 2 as you see here.